You're about to listen to an archived episode of The Night Shift with Zeno Hiroman. This is brought to you commercial-free by the Surfcast Podcast. If you're interested in more historical, educational, and entertaining surf fishing content, check out weekly episodes of the Surfcast Podcast available today on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts, including www.surfcastpodcast.com.
Today is my pleasure to introduce John Johnson. He is a surfcaster. He is a former executive chef at Four Seasons. He is a ODM brand ambassador, a dad. He wears a lot of hats. Let's just put it that way. Welcome to the show, John.
Zeno, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here and an honor to be here with you.
All right, so you tell me, how does the guy that's one day in a Hallmark channel doing cooking videos for Thanksgiving and next day he's up on his surf with the regular guys, that's got to be a hard thing to pull off. No, and I'm not saying being on television and cooking, but I know that your job is more stressful and hours are a lot harder than most other people. So how do you manage to do both?
Yeah, I think it comes from the mindset of having a passion for doing something different, something that not everybody else out there gets to do all the time. Being a chef is very much like that. It's a different profession. It's not for everybody. It's a very challenging, very stressful, but also very rewarding career, and it takes a lot of passion and a lot of drive to be good at it, and it takes a lot of years and a lot of experience, much like surfcasting.
Yeah, I mean, but most of us, get the whole night, the pleasure of fishing most of the night. On most nights, you, on the other hand, get to work most of the nights until late. I actually heard that one night you drove after your shift all the way to the canal, which is like a 5-hour ride. Yeah,
that's just one. Fortunately for me, a large part of my career, I've kind of been in areas where I also love to fish, or been close to areas where I love to fish. I love to travel and fish. It's one of the big things that I love to do. And being working in Manhattan for many years, I mean, sky was the limit. It's an easy run to Montauk, anywhere in the South Shore and North Shore, anywhere in Jersey. And also up to New England. It actually shortens the trip, and it's kind of a central hub. And it was actually easier for me to commute to fish for so many years from there. So it actually created more opportunities, believe it or not.
Yeah, but I mean, the hours are rough. I was just referring to, getting out at midnight or 1 o'clock and then going fishing. And then, when most of the people get up, the deal. But, is there any parallels between cooking, being a chef, and surf fishing?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. With the hours thing. The hours is that's a big thing. We're used to being on our feet for hours and hours on end. We kind of operate in that off peak times. Just like us as surfcasters do. We're up before everybody else, and we're out there after everybody else in the ungodly hours and ungodly temperatures and seasons, and that at a chef's mind, it's a very similar thing. Fortunately, my business kind of gravitates to offer me time in the fall and in the early spring, my favorite time of the year, to chase trophy fish. Here in Jersey and the Raritan. So it's actually it's always been a part of my life. I've always made sure that I have time to fish. If I wasn't able to have time to fish, then I probably would have changed careers a long time ago.
I know that when we go to the fishing shows in the wintertime, you guys are already into the fish and, back bays and stuff like that. And you guys have a really, really good fishery really, really early, right? So is this the same as when you say trophy fishery in the spring, or is it slightly different?
Yeah, it really is the same. Growing up, I grew up here in Jetty Country in Monmouth County in New Jersey. I started fishing the typical way, chasing snappers at the Shark River Bridge, and from there it stemmed into riding my bike to the 3 tackle shops that I could get to, which were Fisherman's Den and Belmar. We'd go there and Sportsman's Shop in Neptune City. Go there, ride my bike there. Bombers were, I think, 3 for $12.99 back then, something like that. And a very good friend of mine back then, I met a gentleman by the name of Chris Mauser. Sort of my mentor, got me into freshwater fishing. Then he would tell me these stories about big stripers and off the jetties in Monmouth County for in the old days. But for me, when I started, it was really difficult. It was I literally started surf casting almost the same year that the moratorium started at the federal level for striped bass, and striped bass really didn't exist, particularly here in New Jersey, and it was a very, very tough time to try and cut your teeth in surf fishing because really all we had was bluefish. At that time, it was an amazing bluefish fishery. And, we really just, we were out there with our heavy boot foot waders, a PVC rain jacket, surplus canvas bag from the Army Navy store, and the belt, and a few bombers, a Hopkins, and stuff like that. That's really where it all started for me. I would say around 86, 87, something like that. And, before I had my license, obviously, we would just jump jetties and here in Monmouth County. And Chris introduced me to a gentleman from the Asbury Park Fishing Club named Russ Ewing. And Russ was a local legend. He had big fish under his belt for so many years, won tournaments, you name it, throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s with the Asbury Club. And introduced me to him. And we spent a lot of time in Russ's garage just listening to his stories, hanging on every single word of the history of striped bass fishing here in jetty country. And that's really where my passion for chasing stripers and big trophy stripers, particularly in the spring, originated. And I started reading because you just didn't see these fish for years. And it really, surf fishing jumped off for me. We would go out 2 or 3 in the morning and fish in the dark, freezing cold in October and November, and just push through the night, fish the first light. Then we'd go get coffee, and then we'd head home, or I'd head to football practice at school or whatever it was. And one morning we were in Spring Lake, next to the Flume, the first jetty in Spring Lake. It's kind of a legendary bass spot. Many 50-pounders came from there in the 70s and 60s and 70s. And so we always fished those jetties. And one morning, it finally sank in for me. The entire horizon literally exploded in Armageddon. Looked like bowling balls dropping out of the sky from an armada of bomber planes, and it was just an absolute mayhem of giant bluefish blitz. And they were coming into us right in the corner of the jetty where we were, and I was casting and not catching anything. I couldn't hook up. I just didn't have the right retrieve. And he looks at me, he's like, "You better speed it up, boy. You better speed it up." And I cast my Hopkins out, and I cranked it as fast as I could, and I hooked into my first giant gorilla bluefish. And we caught so many bluefish that day that just my arms felt like they were going to fall off. I think I missed football practice. I got in trouble with my football coach at the time. And from there on, it was over. That was all I dreamed about, all I thought about. And that's where my passion really it ignited my passion for surf fishing, being out on the jetty, just learning the tides and the winds and where to be in the right place in the right time. And then later on, I really, from my log and my experience, the fishery was not great when I first started. Obviously, for everybody, it was very tough to even catch a striped bass, let alone a big one back then. But I fished hard through the late 80s into the 90s, and we saw it start to come back. I got my license, and then I could travel and expand my range. And me and my friend Greg, we would travel up to the Raritan. We'd hit all the spots in the Raritan. At that time, we had them all to ourselves. And it was, we had an amazing fishery that sprouted, but really nothing big at that time. And it was really all kind of geared towards the fall. But we kept at it, and we traveled further and further, expanding our range down to Island Beach, Seaside, and fishing as much around as we could. And then we found out that, bigger fish started to show up in the mid to late 2000s. And this is before I got on social media or any of that kind of stuff. And it was still kind of a very, very quiet fishery back then. And boy, did it explode. I mean, the big fish started to show up in good numbers, and we would get on them regularly. And it was just, that was where I really started to see it. But when you start seeing results like that and you start putting things together, you really dial in and try to focus in on the variables and the details that can put you in the right place at the right time. And in the past, I would say 10 years and even down to the last 3 years, where the fishery has tapered off, having that experience and dialing in those variables and putting them in place in the spring has paid off big time for me. And having a really tight group of people that I fish with has also been really helpful, because we rarely see anybody out when we're out, but our numbers and quality have increased over the past 5 years tremendously. So it's exciting.
One thing most people don't know about me, and mine and your trajectory at least seem the same, because I came to this country in '87 and I started fishing as soon as I got here. And let me tell you something, it fucking sucked. It took me years to get a bass. Okay, the first bass that I ever caught, and I don't think I ever told this story, the first bass I ever caught was a Jones Beach Field 6. I'm talking about keeper bass, because the keepers were not
sure.
Very few and far between. I stuck, I think, a straw down the eel's mouth to keep him straight, because I fished it, believe it or not, on a sinker. and I think I went to take a piss and the rod went down and I was chasing into the water. I mean, this was so embarrassing, but this is what it was. So I can relate when you say bombers, Adam plugs, Hopkins. That was basically what I used too. And also, the Jersey blitzes that you mentioned, I remember this was in the days of the Stripers Online being the most popular set. I'm sure it still is. I don't go on it, but I'm sure it still is. And I always said, and I said this to the guys at Cape Cod Canal a few years ago, not because I'm a genius or smart ass, but these things tend to end. And when the Jersey guys had those bunker blitzes for few consecutive summers, I mean, it looked like you just had to show up on a right jetty and catch your gigantic fish and take the picture, and this was never going to end. And guess what? It ended. It was nice while it lasted. All I'm saying this is as a warning for anyone to think that anything's going to last for lifetime. And I'm looking at it this morning, the Bitcoin's at $60,000. That's not going to last either, okay? so just so you know, but when you say Jersey, Jersey spring bite, like, Is the Jersey spring bite for the trophy bite different than when you start off in a back of Raritan and a back bays? Is it two different bites, or is it the same bite that just kind of gets better?
Well, it's the one thing I've learned from reading and from having a really good close group of friends is that we keep our information very tight. And
as you should.
We tend not to chase a bite, so to speak, but we like to talk about all the variables that are going to put us in these very tight, small windows around the moon with the right tide, with the right bait. For me, the biggest thing that's paid off, and this is not really an earth-shattering secret, but it does take a lot of time and some nasty weather. But this time of year, before things start really get going in February even, I scout extremely heavy, and I go and look at all the places that are produced for me, and I try and pinpoint the bait as I get closer to my moon and tide windows that I like, and that's where I'm going to put myself. And I'm not going to go chase the phone call bite that might be happening in a very well-known place, because those are typically going to be the school fish. I want to put myself where I'm not going to be around anybody, and I have a shot at these bigger fish, and that's really what's been paying off for the past 4 years, for myself. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of walk on the beach. I try to pick a tide or a day where there's a wind that pushes the tide way out, right around the moon, and the bay will almost dry up, and it becomes this giant solar panel that soaks up sun throughout the day, and then the tides will come in, and if you put the bait in the same place, in the right place, the big fish will show up on those warm flats in the evenings and through the night and into first light. That's typically kind of the formula that I like to use. Me and my close group, and I tell you, I can't stress it enough. The scouting alone, it just absolutely has increased everything across the board in terms of quality of fish.
So you consider yourself a student of the game, I assume. I mean, at least that's sounds to me like that's something that you do. Do you also keep a log?
Yes. So a very detailed log.
I couldn't figure that one.
being a student of the game, I think, as you well know, there's always one of the big parts of this lifestyle, this passion, this little niche of this thing that we have, that driving passion for me is to make sure that every time I put the waders on or I step foot anywhere there's water, I'm there to learn something. no matter what happens, I'm there to learn something. There's always something there to learn. There's always a variable that you can figure out no matter what it is. No matter where you go, I travel a lot to fish as well. And that's one of the things I love to do. I love going to a place with zero info, stepping in there and just trying to learn as much as I can about it. And if you catch a fish, even better. But, just to be out there, that for me, that's 99%, to 100% of it. Just to be able to unplug from your stresses or worries or unpaid bills or whatever it is, pandemics, just to get your head out on the edge, feel the salt air in the dark, the heave of the surf. That's all I need. To catch on top of that, even better. That's amazing too. But that for me is really what it's all about. And I like to keep people around me that, that's what it's all about for them. And we just have such a great time, and we like to chase big fish. Yes, absolutely. But when you do that, you got to take there's a lot of shifts you're going to put in that are not going to produce as well. So it's always about being a student of the game for me, always.
If I ask you, what place do you put yourself to? What is your perfect place and conditions to be in? And I don't mean in terms of where you want to fish every day, but where do you want to fish the most under what conditions? So if you told me Cape Cod Canal during a squid bite, that's fine. But where do you feel, what gets you the most excited during the winter to think to be at?
I think it's there's two things. Growing up in jetty country, obviously, I'm most comfortable on a jetty, on a heavy outflow, on a dangerous rock somewhere with some big tides, big waves, and big wind. That's always gets me jacked up because all the variables are at play. The danger, the mystique, the unknown, all those things heighten your senses and you tune into everything that's in front of you. But just the chance, every time I set foot on the water, my expectation is that next cast is going to be that 50-pounder. It's going to be that fish of a lifetime. And every single cast I make, I have that expectation. And I feel that way every time I go. It's going to happen. This is the time. It's going to happen, and that keeps me going. So the ideal situation, I'd like to be, on a jetty somewhere with big waves, big tides, and with a shot at an absolute giant. That's where I'd love to be, ideally. And growing up in jetty country, that's probably my most favorite place. I'm hopeful that they come back, this year out front like it was. But also fishing, in the back bay and like the Raritan, for example, if you know the right tides and the right windows, my favorite winds and my favorite tides, to be in the spots that I really love in the Raritan, that has a special place in my heart too, because that's just, it's part of me.
Yeah, I hear you. And, I think most of us gravitate into certain places. There's certain fantasy places where we'd like to be, but, for the most part, it's places that we spend a lot of time, and there's a reason why we spend a lot of time on it. And what's in your bag? I know there's conditions that require different plugs, but just give me an idea of what's in your standard bag that you can't live without. Because obviously, if you go fishing flat, back bay area, you're not going to have anywhere near plugs as you're going to angry ocean kind of surf. But tell me, what is it? What is that you have the most confidence in?
Okay, so in recent years, even before, I was always have a big passion for swimming metal lips. But recently, my biggest producer, my biggest confidence plug has been the large size, 3-ounce plus wood darters. And it sounds a little off-center to say that because I fish a lot of back bay, and even the stuff out front where we get on the big fish, it's not deep, fast-moving water. But if you hit them at the right tides, with the right plug that displaces a lot of water, and I'm not fishing really heavily weighted darters. My biggest confidence plug is an LS69, Charles Carlo, yellow, blind, AYC darter. And that plug I have in my bag has more 30 and 40 pound plus fish on it than anything else that I own. And of course, it's a lot of confidence, but I found that with the right conditions, I dress it with just a flag on the back and a single belly hook. And I find that helps keep it in exactly the right water column where I'm fishing with the right tide and the right sweep to just absolutely be in the strike zone for these big fish. So I tried to experiment with that and expand that out to other wood darters like the Beachmaster, of course. That's always in my bag, as well as Mike's Commander. Mike's Commander is a metal lip that I have huge confidence on. It's always in my bag. His darters as well, and of course the mighty Super Strike. The Super Strikes. I have more Super Strikes in my bag than anything else. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But one thing that I found with the Super Strike darters as well is to dress them with either a very small dress side wash on the back and a single belly hook, and that gives me a little bit, just enough lift to be able to fish it in a little less sweep, but in a skinny water situation where it also puts it right in the right column. And I've seen it. I've been outproduced on it. My buddy Mike Zalchek, right next to me, outfished me 4-1, 2 nights in a row on that plug. And I said, man, there's something to it. And I started applying that to the wood darters and to the Super Strike darters. Those are always in my bag. All in some shape or form of yellow or combination of yellow, because predominantly our forage bait is going to be adult bunker in the spring. So yellow is always a color that I have at all times. And as well as the large mag darter is one plug that is always in my bag as well. I fished that plug for a year or two, could not get a tap on the plug, and I committed to fishing it for 1 year. And I figured out that if I fished it a little bit different, instead of just casting it out and fishing it like a regular darter, I cast it out and I fish it actually like a jerkbait. And I put a lot of, almost like you would for a spook, but in a downward. I'm right-handed, so it's upper right sweep down to my left hip motion to get it dug in and started, and then I'll hit it with a slow retrieve and pause. And that large mag darter, once I started doing that, it was lights out. So that's kind of the basics. Those are always in my bag. A loaded redfin's always in my bag, of course, and my black bomber. I don't go anywhere without that. And to stay true to my old school Jersey roots, I always have some tin squids in the pouch. Some small 3/4 to 1 ounce bucktails, of course, and the soft plastics craze has exploded this year. So I plan on having a lot more of those in my bag this year as well. But like gravity eels and BKDs and stuff like that. But it's all about that big profile and getting it in the right column. And I think it's a very fine line between nothing and just absolutely being in the right zone, in the right tide, in the right window with that offering in the spring for us here.
I gotta say, I'm surprised by your choices. Not that they're bad choices, just that not a lot of people gravitate to big darters as a first choice. That's first, and the second thing is the big mag darter never really took off like its smaller cousin that came out first, which is a really, really good plug.
Yes, it is.
And they're both good plugs. Like you just prove it to all of us that you just have to use it until you figure it out. And I got a feeling that you are very creative with stuff that you do, because generally the people that are students of the game and are keeping the logs like to play with different things until they see what works. And this is why you go and see the areas before you fish them. Plus, I've seen the way you lay out your food. I know you're very creative. We all know. I mean, we're not talking about some regular guy in a deli. We're talking about a world-class chef here. All right, so the other thing is, you are the brand ambassador for the ODM company, right? ODM rods, they make the surf back, they make plugs, but they're most famous for the rod line, and that has come a long way from a few years that they started. I mean, it's a really remarkable what they have accomplished. Obviously, you're a big part of that. What do you think is the secret to the success of the ODM company?
I think it goes back to our passion for this fishery. That's really where it originates from. If you know Steve, Steve's he's one of my best friends in the world. I've known Steve for a bunch of years now. When he first started, I met him and I said, man, this guy has something really special. And, he has this passion for, if you know Steve, he's not going to put out anything that is at 100%. He's going to put out stuff that's at 110%. Every detail. How does the rod react? How does it feel? How does it cast? How does it look? What's its durability? Does this do what the angler fishing it wants to do? And I think that theory and that sort of approach is in every single product that we create and put into the market, with Steve's vision for creating, this ultimate experience. It's in every single thing, every thought process that we do. We pour over every single thing that we do before it ever even attempts to get into the market. And I think that really, it shines through in the product. It speaks for itself. And, I just enjoy the full range of everything we do. We have something for everybody. As surf fishing, it's all about preference, right? We're constant tinkerers with all of our gear and customizing this and making that and inventing this and that. And it's born of that same mindset. And it has to be an excellent product. It has to be something that's just that next level of experience for the surfcaster, and something for everybody. Some people like me, I've got a bad shoulder, and I'm a terrible caster, so I need something.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
So I need as much help as I can get in that respect. But I look more for the sensitivity, so I can feel what my black bomber is doing in that skinny water, to know that I'm in the right place at the right time. And the ODM products have that's put me in the right place. And we love what we do. We're passionate about this fishery, for all types of fish, but striped bass, of course, is our pride and joy. And it's all about the pursuit of the ultimate experience, trying to build that into everything that we do.
I screwed up my shoulder in the gym as I joined the gym at the late ages of 50. And you, my friend, fell off the bike and screwed up your shoulder?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Right. That was a brilliant idea.
Well, at least we're trying to be healthy, right?
Yeah, I think that's the pursuit of our youth, which left me about 30 years ago. So I'm a little behind on that one. Listen, I've seen you at the shows, and I know that you enjoy working with them. And obviously, all of you guys that help out at these shows for all these brands, it's not like any of you are paid employees. This is all like a labor of love, and you have to believe in brand. But how do you tell a guy who comes to you at the show and go like, okay, I want to get a rod? And this is a lot of time from the new guys that are getting into sport. This is the question is I want to get a rod. How long should it be? How do you talk him? How do you put him in a right product?
I think it's my first approach whenever and it happens more often than you think, even at shows or not at shows. And that's what I love about it too. You get to speak to people that are kind of getting started in surf casting and fishing. And it's really, it's fantastic. It's one of the most rewarding things is being able to teach and people getting into the sport and get them on the right path. But I often start with where are you fishing? What do you like to throw? And I always tell people, okay, you're getting ready for a night out in the surf. What's in your bag? What's your situation? You're going to be on a jetty. You're going to be on a sand beach. Fortunately, we have something for everybody, and certain rods are the ultimate beach rod. Certain rods are the ultimate casting 8 ounces in a bunker head. We have pretty much everything to cover the gamut. So once you get someone's preferences, you can kind of say, okay, I recommend this range, and what are you going to throw? I'm throwing SP minnows, small mag darters, 3/4 ounce bucktail. That I'm going to say, all right, well, here's your range. This is what we offer in that category, and feel for yourself. What do you think? And I always tell people as well, try and visit your local shops as much as possible. There's so much information to be had, and not just talking about there's a hot bite here and there, but genuinely speaking, I know that the shops by me that I've always dealt with for many years, they're always there to help. They'll throw a reel on the rod for you to let you feel it and get an idea what you're getting into before you go ahead and make a purchase. And I think those are the two biggest things, just finding out what people like to throw. To know what they're going to be, what their range is, where they're going to be fishing, what the application might be. I'm not going to sell a 7/6 back bay one piece to somebody who likes to, soak clams or bunker heads in Island Beach State Park. But there is something for everybody. That's the beautiful thing about surf fishing in general, and to be able to work with products that kind of represent every single aspect you could approach within our sport.
I agree with you 100%. And I also think there's a certain amount of I don't even know how to describe. I'm a simpleton, so I'm gonna say the love for the product, and I'm not even gonna say the brand, but the way the product feels. Like, I'm a very sloppy caster. Everybody knows that. I try the fast action rods, and they cast a mile as long as you have the proper technique, and actually less effort than a slow or medium, whatever you want to call it. But the problem is, if you don't pay attention, your cast goes about 6 feet. It doesn't go anywhere because the rod's not as forgiving as the other one. So where I'm going with this is that, I'm a big Genesis guy. I've been using Genesis for years. I take it to Mexico. I take it to Montauk. I find that rod to do everything that I want to do. It forgives a lot of my mental errors and physical errors, and I can accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. And I know other people are much more into maybe a faster action rod, or for that reason or for other reasons. I do understand that you guys reconfigured the Genesis, or updated, it would be the better word for this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything has its life cycle, and we like to. Each line kind of has its, like you said, you love Genesis. I love all the different lines for what they do, individually for different applications. But I love Frontier X. It's a little faster action. I tend to find myself out on the jetties more and out on the rock and stuff like that. So I like that Frontier X. But our new Genesis, it has the same exact feel of the original Genesis, with upgraded layering in the carbon, upgraded. It's from the split, the bottom half, we layered in a 1K weave into the outer layer of it, and we actually have a sanded blank for a little bit updated, cleaner, aesthetically, just a super sleek look. New Fuji gunmetal guides, and from top to bottom, it is just an absolute gorgeous rod, super, super light, ultra sensitive. That castability, that effortless castability, is better than ever, and I can't wait to see people start using the new Genesis and just putting fish on it, because it is.
I think Stevie told me it's a lighter, stronger, thinner version of the existing one, or the
Correct.
original line. And the pricing is just about the same, which is fantastic.
It's fantastic. I would say it's a refined, updated, sleeker version of the original Genesis with all the original characteristics. And if you love Genesis, you're going to love this even more.
That's cool. Now, tell me about your favorite rod. You were talking about Frontier, right? Why? Tell me.
At Frontier, I am not a great caster, but I find that, as I said, I find myself in a lot of situations where I'm around rocks or in an inlet or breachway or jetty, and I'm clumsy. I'm falling down, I'm dropping the rod, trying to land fish, and jump down on the rocks, help my buddies land fish and stuff like that. The Frontier X is just, it has that crisp cast that I like, with faster recovery. It has a much faster action, because typically I'm fishing those situations in big current, targeting bigger fish with bigger plugs, and I like to have that extra power to end it quickly. I tend to kind of overdrive my gear for those situations, but if I'm going to go walk the beaches with my daughter and teach her, and she's becoming a big surf caster, she's really into it. I've got her next one because she's learning how to cast, and it's a little more forgiving. But I'll grab my Genesis for that, and I'll go walk the beaches with her. But if I'm going out and I'm going to jump on my jetties or my breachways with my buddies, up north, and I'm grabbing my Frontier X, because I know if I drop that down in the cracks of the jetty and fall down on top of it, I have it's gonna survive.
Listen, that kind of an error, and I've learned this over the years. There's nothing survives my weight if you land it on the right way. But I get what you're saying. You also have a one piece. I think Lou Caruso told me that the Evolutions were selling like hotcakes. What's so great about that particular rod comparable to others?
Yeah, so the Evolution is super. I mean, it is the ultimate. The Evolution is sort of this. I don't know how to describe it, but the range and the evolution is so wide, and it's such an easy casting rod. It's plush, smooth casting, very thin blank, very crisp recovery. You can fish everything from small bucktails and small plastics in the back bay. You can cast up to 5 ounces on that rod with effortless, just like you do on the Genesis. And it also, again, it's for preference. A lot of people like that custom rod, that one-piece blank. They like to fish that. Me, I've kind of gone over to two
dark
piece.
side.
I love my one piece, but certain situations I can't carry my gear that way, so I can't always bring my one piece. But the evolution has been such a huge hit because it really appeals to everybody, and it has power to throw these big plugs and stop big fish, but it has that sensitivity and lightness to cast all night long. You're out there, you're putting in a full night shift, you're casting everything in your bag. You want to have that rod that's effortless casting, very thin blank. You can carry that thing all night long and cast it and cast it and cast it, and it has the power to to put those fish in front of you as well.
The remarkable part of our discussion right now, which probably nobody will get, only because they don't think about it. I just reprinted The Art of Surfcasting, which is now in 2021.
Thank you.
13, 14 years old. And it was selling on Amazon for like $1,000. And I found the original file, printed file, and we just gave it to Amazon. I think they literally print one book at a time when you order it, which is fine. It wasn't done for money. I just wanted to get the price where it was. Where I'm going is something else. When I published that book, I used the Lamy GSP, and I used Lamy GSP and other type of rods and centuries and the CTS and all this other stuff over the years. It never dawned on me to use a 2-piece rod. It was like, oh my God. I mean, if somebody saw me with a 2-piece rod, what would they think of me? Now I own about 5 or 6. They're all 2-piece rods. I have one-piece rod, which is the Evolution, and I have a bunch of Genesis and other rods, and they're all 2-piece. And my point is this: it's not like we have gotten either old, which I did in parentheses, and because we now can't do stuff, or even the spots. I take those rods everywhere where I took a 1-piece rod. What I'm trying to get at is these 2-piece rods have gotten as good on action and sensitivity as the 1-piece rods used to be. Now, will I argue that they are equal to? Nothing can be equal to 1-piece. The only thing, not even when you fuse the 2 pieces into 1 piece, it's still not the same. So I'm not going to argue that argument, but I'm just saying the quality of a 2-piece rod over the year progressively has gotten so much good that it's very difficult to tell the difference between a 1-piece rod and a 2-piece rod under the normal circumstances.
Correct. Yeah, for me, a big thing is, especially commuting to the city and this time of year, a big thing for me is that 2-piece rod has really shined for me, is that I can actually lock all my gear up inside my vehicle. And I literally get off the train or the bus, I hop in my truck, I put the rod together, I put it up on the rack, and I'm in the water in about 10 minutes, and my gear stays safe. I love 1-piece rods just as much as everybody else. But if I had to rely on coming home and get my 1-piece rod, I probably would miss out on a large part of my fishing, especially in the spring when it comes to getting in the water after work and stuff like that.
Yeah, listen, I hear you. I love the convenience. I've done the same thing. I ran down to the beach before work, and then I go to Long Island Railroad with 2-piece rod. I just take it apart. It's buried in my trunk and under the waders, and nobody sees it. With 1-piece rod, obviously, I would have to go home. Now, has it happened that I made a cast and a top piece flew off with the... Yeah, it has happened. I mean, it's just, sometimes it will happen. But for the most part, it's really good. You also guys have a line of bags which are well received. A lot of guys are wearing them and use them. And recently, I think your newest product for the last year was a single, it was almost like one of those whatever you want to do with it bags, right?
Yeah, the all-in-one, the AIO bag, built really designed for, again, for that grab-and-go situation. You're at work or it's summer and there's a bluefish blitz, down the beach. You got a couple topwater plugs in there. You grab it, you throw it on your shoulder. It's got the pliers in the bag, ready to go. It can also be you take the strap off it, and you could also put that on your belt and use that for your big plugs, and put that on your belt if you're wetsuiting. It's kind of an add-on bag to your arsenal that you already have on your surf belt. That was kind of the idea of it. It's very versatile. It is absolutely something. I actually have, when I go and fish with my daughter in the summer, we walk the beach. We could be collecting shells or fluking on the beach or trying to find some blues. But the AIO bag's perfect for it. It's just you don't want to carry the full plug bag with you. You grab that, throw it in the car, leave it in there, and you can be out in the water in a matter of minutes. It was also designed to kind of fit the gulp containers for fluking, and the bucktail pouch on the side. So it's just super versatile. Again, all in one. So you just grab and go and get out in the water quickly with your bare necessities.
I just want to go back to rods for a second. I mean, I know that I think the DNA line was the last one that was introduced, correct? Am I wrong?
Yeah, so DNA came out last year or 2000.
Right.
Yeah, end of 2019 we started to introduce it. The DNA was just something that again, it's a two-piece. The action. It has a little bit of Genesis. It has a little bit of Frontier in it, but it's something that we could work a little bit more with the price point and get a little bit more range to more people, and just a super durable, custom look. Excellent.
Right. It's considered an entry level in your lineup. Obviously, another lineup will look like it's a high end, like comparable to Penn, who can't seem to make a fucking rod in 20 years that's worth anything. But go ahead.
No, we don't look at what anybody else does. We just look at what we love,
right,
what we like to do, and DNA is just another. It's just another another piece of your arsenal. No, it's another piece. It's another weapon in your arsenal. Again, it's a two-piece rod that you can always have in your truck, in your car. And if you notice in that range, we actually focused kind of way down into the smaller range, down to the 7'6" size. And that's kind of, that's something that you could actually use on a kayak, for example, or take it freshwater fishing, or, just the range of application with DNA was the approach. Really just to have an excellent product that, again, it's another set of preferences for a whole different, group of people who might want just a touch faster action. They're not looking for that, lightning fast or mod fast action, I should say, for Frontier X. And they don't want that moderate action just for Genesis. It kind of lands somewhere in between, regardless of price point. It has a little bit of a different feel than any of the other ones on its own, and some people like that. I actually love the DNA. It's like when it first came out, I couldn't put the rod down, and I put so many big fish on that rod that it became my confidence rod, and I just fished it and fished and fished the 11-foot 1-5, and the range of it is it's absolutely perfect for everything, pretty much anywhere, to be honest with you. But, that was our approach with DNA, was really just to kind of give something from our heart and our roots of what we made, and give a very wide range to a different group of anglers.
I really think, and I hope that we come to the day, which I don't think is ever going to happen, where you actually can try the rod before buying it, because what you just said and just brought back some memories. It's like there's rods that people tell you, well, you write in Surfcast Journal, this, that, you should be fishing with, they have these certain expectations. And I found like certain rods from Tsunami, I think Airwave, when it came out, this was years ago, I'm talking about 5-10 years ago. And I really, really like those models for specific application. And I didn't find any other brand of companies, and people were always like surprised that I would use something from, let's just say, Tsunami. Or I just find if it works for you and it's a really good product and you really like the action, that's all that matters, doesn't it?
Well, it's that you nailed it right on the head. All of this stuff, all of our sport is all about personal preference, especially when it comes to rods. And we like to look at every caster that's out there. We like to have something, all those options for them. And the other good thing is about this industry, we're surfcasters, right? We demand something new, something better, something great. It has to be an excellent product. We're out in these conditions, and we like everything kind of customized to the way we want it to feel. And I think that's, it goes a long way, because there's so many great companies out there making so many great products. We're just fortunate to be, a company involved at the grassroots level, in touch with a lot of people in the industry and a lot of people who fish. and all of our dealers. And we take their feedback and we incorporate it. And I think that's it's a good place. Our sport has a great future, and it's nice to have all this friendly competition, so to speak, to help drive us all forward.
I am seriously impressed what you guys have accomplished in the last few years, and the reputation that you built, and it's all been done organically, and it's all justified in my mind. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today and spending some time bullshitting about the rods and fishing and Jersey and cooking. And I hope your shoulder heals well, and I hope you visit us again, and we'll do this chit chat about another subject.
Yeah, thank you so much. What you and Tommy have created there, and is really given our sport a relevance that it never had, and it's given us this platform to exchange information. You hear people talk about social media and this and that, but all of what you guys have done, your book and all the other books out there, just gives us this platform, to exchange information and get better, to help the sport, to help conservation, promote catch and release, help our industry grow as well, and that's what it's all about. And then there's another thing we didn't touch on, but the youth and the growth of our sport is very dependent on the next generation of people coming into it. And I think your publication with Surfcasters Journal and just all the online content and everything is only helping that. And I see young people, kids getting into this, and nothing makes me happier than teaching them and working with them and, growing our sport together. It's a positive thing, and it's just, that's what keeps us all going, So thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and, look forward to seeing you soon, and let's fish.
You know what? That's a good idea for a podcast. Get few people together to talk about how we can do better. Not that we're not doing bad, but we could do better for the youths of today. Maybe even have a kind of a panel of somebody throwing out different ideas, because, at the end of the day, that's all we're going to have left with. That's all we leave behind,
Yeah, interesting point to that. And this year it got put on hold because of COVID, but one of the programs that I was fortunate enough to work with Team ODM was there's a program in a local high school here. Tim Brennan runs it. It's called Get Kids Hooked on Fishing, Not Drugs. And it's an actual high school class. And I think it's around the country. But my local program, we actually went in and taught the class here. And wow, what an amazing experience. You have these young kids. They hang on every word you say. And we went in and we just talked about the basics of surf casting, the basics of the gear, safety, first and foremost, how to read the beach, tactics and basics and stuff like that. But they were absolutely engaged. And that's the future of our sport, and I think it's important that we focus on that and grow it. My daughter, she's 12 now. She's got her own custom Next One built by Marco Perino, PPW, with pink wraps and her reel, and she's getting to be pretty good. She's got a fluke, she's got several bluefish on her own and on a bucktail, and she's caught her first bass. She's yet to get a keeper, but I think this year is going to be the year. But like you said, there's a lot more conversation in that regard. There's a lot more women coming to surf casting too, which is very cool to see. There's a lot of great things happening out there, and I think it's important we keep focused on the positive side of it. There's nothing but good stuff out there for us.